Dealing with jealousy and comparison. These are two things that go hand in hand. And I also believe that dealing with these two emotions can be quite confrontative and can make you feel quite vulnerable about yourself. But once you do realize that these are the emotions that you're going through and you do work on it to be better, I believe that it is a higher form of self love for yourself. And yeah, these are just my observations and my realizations through the years. So, when we're talking of jealousy as a whole, I believe that there are three different kinds of jealousies. The first one is the egotistical jealousy, which I'm going to be talking about more. There's the second one is the lack of self-love jealousy, which kind of goes hand in hand with the egotistical, but I'll explain on it further. And the third one is possessive jealousy. So I'm going to be talking about the possessive jealousy first, and then I'm going to go with the lack of self-love jealousy and then the egotistical jealousy. So I'm just going to go 3, 2, 1. So the possessive jealousy, this is the kind of jealousy where a person can show feelings of possessiveness slash jealousy when it comes to their significant other, let's say getting attention from the opposite sex, or just getting attention in general that they do not like. There are certain kinds of people that like jealousy and that see jealousy as kind of a positive trait, but that is to an extent. Like there's a boundary to it, because when those boundaries are crossed, then it starts becoming borderline scary for people to go through. If their significant other starts getting possessive in terms of if they're even looking at some other person in just a normal way, but they find it as a threat. If you feel that your significant other is behaving such symptoms, then you probably might need to speak to that person and make that person aware that they're behaving this way. And if they are aware that they behave this way and mask it, that, oh, this is just my way of showing love, I would say that's a major red flag, and I would either ask that person to go and seek therapy, or I would just leave, because that for me is a non-negotiable. For me, I'm okay to a certain level of possessiveness or jealousy, where it's like where I'm okay with it being just to a certain extent, but not beyond it. As long as my boundaries are not crossed, I'm fine with it. So that's the possessive jealousy. So now I'm going to come to lack of self-love jealousy. Lack of self-love jealousy is something that I believe that many people who've gone through childhood trauma would experience at some point in their life. And even if you've not experienced childhood trauma to a major extent and have some sort of feelings where you feel like you're not good enough, lack of self-love jealousy can come into play. What I mean by lack of self-love jealousy, so for example, when you do believe that you have those qualities in you, but you see somebody else and they are performing much better than you, and even though you have those skills in you and you do already believe in yourself that you would do really well, you seeing the other person doing better can or might invoke something inside you that makes you feel like, oh, I have all of these things, but I'm not able to do it the way that other person is doing it. And so sometimes if you don't have the positive mindset going on for you, instead of looking at it as an inspiration, sometimes it can come off as jealousy. and it can be like, oh, I have these skills, but why this is other person doing this, like making it look or seem much better than how I'm doing it. And to give you an example for this is that I usually go for Pilates classes, and I would say that I'm pretty good at what I do because I do this 6 days a week. And because I've been doing 6 days a week, I believe that I'm quite strong and I'm quite advanced in my techniques when it comes to Pilates and performing Pilates exercises. However, there was this one particular beautiful woman who came in, and she seemed like she had never done Pilates before. But when our classes started, she was able to perform better than me. And when that first happened, and when I was able to observe that she was able to perform better than me, that first instance came up, or the first thought in my head came up, like, oh, but I'm doing, I've been doing this for so long. How is she doing it so well, even if she hasn't, performed Pilates before? And one good thing about is that I realized that this is a form of jealousy coming off, and this is a form of lack of self-love, where I'm able to figure out by myself, like, oh, just because that the other person is doing well, it does not mean that my skills are not good enough. It's just, there are so many factors could be for why I'm not doing as well as the other person. And even if I wasn't doing as well as the other person, I should take inspiration from it. And I snapped out of it. I snapped out of that thought, and I was like, this is not, her doing better is not an indication of me and my skills. Her doing better is her being her. And it's got nothing to do with me or my skills. And it takes one to notice these thoughts, and then it takes also another step to say to yourself, like, okay, whatever that other person is doing is not anything to say about you. It's just different people performing in a different way. That's literally it. It does not mean anything. But a lack of self-love can come in this way, where I also have noticed a lot of my friends in the past, or even, friends who do not have that self-love within themselves, or worse, if they do not have that belief within themselves, where they believe that they're good enough, or good enough to perform some task, or good enough, let's say in terms of even looks. So it's something that makes them feel insecure. That's something that can also blend in because of your insecurities. And you look at the other person, and then you compare yourself with the other person, and then you start feeling that jealousy, where it's like, oh, how come like that person's doing better than me, or oh, that person's doing really better than me, but I don't even know if I can do it as good as that other person, when in reality that's not true. And if you feel like you're not good enough to perform that certain task, or if you feel like you don't look good enough, this is a step for you to reflect on yourself and be like, okay, this is something that I feel like I'm not good enough. So what can I do to be good enough? What can I do to make myself feel better? And what can I do? What steps can I take to believe in myself to be better? And how can I be better? And so I'm going to talk about how we're going to, or how I dealt with it in a few minutes. Before that, I want to finish egotistical jealousy. Egotistical jealousy is something that I did say in the past, but it can be in forms of egotistical jealousy is like, oh, that other person's doing well. How can it be? I'm the best in this, or I look the best, or I'm basically putting yourself in the highest of the highest pedestal. It's good to put yourself on a pedestal. That's a good form of self-love, but putting it on that kind of pedestal is kind of making you delusional. And you kind of need to come off your high horse. because there needs to be a point where you should be able to reflect on yourself, and you should be able to learn if somebody else you feel is doing better than you. And so egotistical jealousy is something that can be embedded from childhood because of extremely obsessive parents always encouraging them, like, oh no, you're the best, oh no, you look the best, you are the best in everything, so you can't stand it if somebody else is doing better than you. Or egotistical jealousy could just, really be something that where you have never been challenged in your life, and you feel like your ego is taking a jive when you see somebody else better than you or somebody else performing better than you. And if you feel in this way, and if you're actually able to reflect on yourself and tell yourself that this is actually my ego talking, you are doing a great job, because then you will be able to get rid of it as soon as you think of it. And once you think of it, you'll know that, okay, this is actually coming from my ego, this is not coming from anywhere else. And so I kind of need to come off the high horse, and I kind of need to accept that you're not the only one who will be the best in the world. There are 7 billion people in this planet. You are not the best, and there will always be people better than you. The faster you realize it, the better it is for you, and that you should commemorate other people that actually do well, because you're going to take inspiration to be better. Why would you not want to be better? So now that you know that these are two feelings that you feel in terms of whatever you're doing in your life, or even if in terms of like you do not like the way you look, I think that's a very easy example to take, because I struggled with that my entire life. I used to compare myself with other women. I used to always feel like I was not good enough. That lack of self-love was prevalent throughout my childhood. So what would be good to do is to take a pen and a paper, and what you're going to do is in the middle of the sheet, hold on. So in the middle of the sheet, you're going to write why. And the reason for that is because you will be able to divulge in different things that we're going to talk about. So why? If you're feeling jealous, or if you're feeling that you're comparing with somebody else, I want you to write down, so jealousy on one side, and then comparison on the other. I don't know if you'll be able to understand my handwriting, but I hope you can see this. So there's the jealousy on one side, there's a comparison on the other side, and then there's a why in between. So when you feel like you're feeling jealous, you should be able, with the three different jealousies that I mentioned, so possessive jealousy, lack of self-love jealousy, or egotistical jealousy, write that down. So I'm going to go with the example of if you're not feeling good enough, or if you feel like you don't look the best, it comes under the category of lack of self-love jealousy. So I'm going to write down lack of self-love jealousy. And so that means that you're comparing yourself with other women. And so even if you don't feel good enough, you look at other women who are actually good looking, and you feel like they're really beautiful women, or men, sorry, do not mean to exclude women or men. If you feel like that other person looks really beautiful, you feel like, oh, how come I'm not able to look like her, or how come I don't look like that, or how come I'm not getting the attention that the other person is getting? Is it because of them feeling beautiful? And so that is going to start going to trickle down into your why. But before we get into your why, you will be able to understand that this jealousy is also coming from comparison. So that's why I said in the start, they go hand in hand. So draw an arrow towards comparison, and then say lack of self-love, feeling inadequate in your looks. and they go back and forward. So basically, again, ignore how bad my handwriting looks. Probably it's like a doctor's handwriting. So yeah, that's what it is. So it goes hand in hand. So it's lack of self-love, jealousy, and then this is lack of self-love, feeling inadequate in yourself. And then it's going to come down into your why. Why do you feel this way? So there could be many different reasons. And for me, I felt this way is because from my childhood, I was never, positive validation was never given to me. And so I always felt like I was not good enough because I was never told if whatever I was doing was okay. And as a child, you don't know, you are going by what your parents tell you. And so, because that positive validation was not given to me, I never felt like I was good enough. And so that started trickling down into my why. But this takes a long time. If you have to sit on it, and even if you actually just realize these two and you just don't know your why, that's okay. Take a few days, sit on it, just keep asking yourself, like, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel this way? And slowly the answers will come to you. I promise you, the answers will come to you. This for me took me years of meditation and years of trying to self-reflect to understand why I feel this way. So that's why it's coming out so easily. So the first reason of why I thought that I was feeling inadequate was because I felt like I was not good looking. So I would put that down under my why. Like I felt like I was not good looking. Then I felt this way because the other girls in my class looked different than me. Looked different. I was never complimented growing up. Was never complimented. And boys were not into me. When in class I would see other girls being asked out, like I was never asked out. So that also fed into me feeling insecure about myself or feeling inadequate. So boys never asked me out, and yeah, it might be a silly reason, but for a young girl, it's something. Boys never asked me out, and actually these were the four things that made me feel inadequate about myself. And so now these are the lists that I have written down. Now on that we're going to write answers on what we can do to make ourselves feel better. So from the why, we're going to go into what can we do to make ourselves feel better. I would just draw an arrow. So to answer that, I was not good looking. To whom? To whom? I was not good looking to the boys, or I was not good looking to myself, or was I not good looking in other people's eyes? That's a good question. So for me, that was a question that I had to ponder over for days. Trying to find those answers will take time. This takes time. So please give yourself a lot of love while you're going through this process, because it's hard. It's really, really hard. And give yourself the support and give yourself that talk to yourself, like no matter how vulnerable this is making you feel, you've got to push through to learn your why. So I felt like I was not good looking. The other girls in class looked different. I was never complimented. Boys never asked me out. So I thought to myself, what can I do to make myself feel better from this? So growing up, I was actually an overweight child, and that I was bullied for my skin color. So I thought to myself, okay, so I feel overweight and I felt like I was bullied for my skin color. Is there something I can do about my skin color? No. But is there something I can do about me being overweight? Yes. So what can I do to make myself feel better about being overweight? And let me tell you, being overweight is not a wrong thing. But it's just that was something that didn't make me feel good enough. So what can I do to make myself feel better? Lose some weight. So I thought to myself, okay, lose some weight. That will make me feel better about myself. It doesn't mean that it's going to make me the king queen of the world and that I will be the best looking. No, but I thought to myself that if I myself don't feel good enough in terms of my weight, then let me try and change that to a point where I actually feel like I'm good enough with my weight. I was never complimented. So this is something that I had to speak to my parents about, that, it really hurt me that you never complimented me growing up. And I understand where they were coming from, that they just wanted me to do better, and that's why that's their mindset. But I just didn't work in that way, and it had to take courage for me to tell them, like, I don't appreciate when you don't compliment me or give me a positive reinforcement that, what, like, what you did is good, like, I'm proud of you. These are positive reinforcements that I didn't hear growing up, and it was quite hurtful. So to solve that problem, I was never complimented. I went and spoke to my parents about it, like, I would really appreciate if you would start using positive reinforcements more, because that would really help me. And it, again, like I'm saying, like, it's not like it's going to make you feel like the best, but it is something that can contribute to making you feel better. So why not? So that's the next thing I did. So ask parents to use positive reinforcements, sorry. And then boys never asked me out. So this is something I never solved, actually, because my self-reflection journey came much further later in life. This is not something that I did when I was in school or high school. I couldn't really solve this problem, but I had to just accept this, that, okay, this is not something, like, guys don't like me. In school at least, guys didn't like me. Okay, it's not the end of the world. I'm still alive. Doesn't mean anything at all. And it doesn't mean that I didn't get asked out later on in life. I did, but it's just in that moment it didn't happen. And a lot of the times, when you don't feel confident in yourself, that doesn't show. And it didn't show when I was in school growing up. So that's also probably could be a reason. I don't know. There could be so many other reasons, but it's not something that I can have in control. The steps that I am saying is something that what you can do that is in your control to help you navigate through these emotions. And so while it not may be a permanent solution, but it could be something that you could continuously work on, because self-love is something that you continuously work on. And I'm not saying that I am the guru in jealousy or comparison. This happens, we're all human, this happens. It's just something that you can do, to make yourself feel better. And so, yeah, I don't know, if boys never ask me out, there's nothing much I can do about it. I just have to accept it as a fact. So I just wrote down, just accept it. It's just what it is, just what it was. To a 13-year-old me, it wasn't fair, and I wish I did get asked out and felt all those nice, cute, bubbly romance. It didn't happen. Big deal. So yeah, so that's written down. Going through this is incredibly therapeutic. While it can make you feel vulnerable, it's incredibly therapeutic. And once you do go through this, you learn so much about yourself. Like, look, you've already learned so much about me. And while learning this much about yourself, you'll be able to reflect a lot more, like, oh, this is something that has happened. And you'll be able to think to yourself, like, oh, this wasn't right, what happened to me. And when you do go through these, I want you to give yourself a hug and just tell yourself, like, you know what, I'm very proud of you for going through whatever you went through, because yeah, it was not right. Like, for example, like, for me being bullied, for my skin color, like, was that a right thing to go through? No, but it happens in life. And so you need to give yourself that love when you realize these experiences are something that stems into why you feel the way you feel. And yeah, it's hard. It's really hard. I really empathize. And while you're going through this whole journey, do not, and I'm saying it, do not even think of judging yourself. Because if you judge yourself for whatever you're doing and for whatever you have gone through and the actions that you created through whatever you were feeling, you're just going to put yourself like even more lower than what you are feeling, and that's not right. Whatever you went through, you went through. Whatever you are feeling, you are feeling. Should be no judgment there, because you are human. We are all human. We are really trying to navigate through difficult instances in life, and just writing it down, just pouring your heart out on something that you want to really reflect on and you want to grow and be better. Why would you judge yourself for it? So please don't judge yourself for it. Give yourself a lot of love and give yourself a lot of compassion, because reflecting and doing this work is really tough on the brain and on the heart. And so going through it is, while it is therapeutic, it's also so deep and meditative for yourself. This is a form of also, self-love. So be kind, be graceful, and be really loving. Be really loving. So yeah, I really hope that this is something that helped anyone. If nothing, I hope I helped myself, because for me, writing it down always helps. And if I am feeling this way in the future, I'll be able to look back and see this and be like, okay, what can I do to make myself feel better? So I hope you give yourself a lot of love. Like I said before, you truly deserve to feel better. Everybody deserves to be loved. Everybody deserves to be kind, and everybody deserves to be treated better. And I hope for nothing but love and kindness and peace and peaceful energy to you and everybody around, especially Ritam, to you. Like, I hope you give yourself always the love that you are trying to give yourself each and every day. So yeah, thank you.